All right, we are recording our first podcast. Excited to be here with a very dear friend of mine. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kramer Nunez. I'm from Utah. I live in Peru right now. Been here for about 7 years, almost 8 years. And I'm here with a very special guest, one of the people that have greatly impacted my life. Like this guy, first of all, just gonna tell you a little bit about him, and then he can maybe talk a little bit
Now
about.
we're cutting out.
We're cutting out.
Hmm.
Okay, my internet is good. Okay. All right. Well, this guy is first of all a nurse. Okay. What does that say about him? Okay. That says that he is a person that likes to serve others. Okay. He has a big heart. Okay. I first met him when I was like, 18, 19 years old. I was basically a nobody, okay, and I was trying to just do something with my life. I was trying to begin, in the world of business, and he was one of these wise older guru guys that had already had success. He got started, I think, with when I met him, he showed me some results that he was having with like Google AdSense, where he was making like $40,000 a month on Google AdSense way back in the day before they got their nice little algorithm and stuff like that. But like he was in the world of business, and he was actually teaching people about real estate, real estate investing. And I could see through his interactions how he actually cared about helping families out of bad situations, helping new students learn the craft, the art of investing and making a deal, and how best to help people out. And for whatever reason, this guy became my friend, and just like I've helped him move. We've known each other like for almost 10 years now. Okay, so it's a long-lasting friendship. We've been involved in some projects together. We've done some things apart, yet somehow life always brings us back together. We're always looking at kind of like the same ideas. Okay, I personally am a consultant for network marketing, and he's a coach for other people's teams. And so it's like we're always kind of like doing similar things. It's kind of amazing, and I'm just glad to have him on here because he was one of my first mentors. He actually led me to meet the person that became my mentor and best friend right now. A multimillionaire success story. And it's thanks to this guy that we have on this podcast right now that I, as a young man, learned that I could be friends with millionaires, that I didn't have to, that my worth wasn't about how much money I had. Some people will become shy around people that are doing better than them or whatever. But he taught me that we're all just regular people, and that has helped me so much in my life because I've made friendships and relationships that I otherwise don't think would have managed to have made if it wasn't for that attitude that he instilled in me that, hey, we're all the same, nobody's better or worse than you, and we're all here to help out, that whole servant leader attitude that he embodies. So that's just a little bit about Kenny Santos. We're going to have him talk about himself too throughout this podcast, but just wanted you guys to know a little bit of the person who's right here with me and why I thought it was important to start this out with him. So Kenny, what's up? How you doing?
Well, what an awesome introduction. I wish I had better content for you. I wouldn't even come prepared with anything. I was coming to chat. And so, first of all, can you hear me? Because I turned off my Bluetooth.
No, I can hear you perfectly.
Cool, perfect. So just making sure that everything's good with the recording. I'll tell you, man, when I first met you, yeah, we got to tell them mini bikes.
Yeah, you can talk about the mini bike.
Oh, are you cutting out there?
No, it's good. I can hear you. Yeah, you can tell them about the mini bike.
Okay.
I forget. It's so embarrassing. I forget.
This is kind of interesting because Kramer, he was a nobody. And no one's a nobody. I mean, yeah, we didn't know him, but he came into the office, opportunity. I can't remember, but he brought into the office a mini bike. And I think the qualifications for a mini. This is a fully I guess it's a fully functional motorcycle. It has a motor and everything, but I think to qualify is something, because if it's 100 cc's, then you need a license. So I think Kramer's bike was 99 cc's, didn't need a license, and the whole reason why he used this mini bike is because I don't think he couldn't afford a car. And so this was perhaps one of the most least expensive modes of transportation. And, you know, he was just a guy looking for assistance. He was not assistance. He was looking for not a handout, but some help. He was looking for help, but not a handout, because I'll tell you, Kramer, he came and he was ready to work, and he was ready to do whatever it takes, and not like whatever it takes, like he was going to break his morals, but he was ready to work because he was under some pretty, he was under some pretty pressing conditions. If I remember correctly, wasn't the house that you were living in danger of foreclosure?
Yeah, so my mom wasn't. My mom had bought a house, and this was back in 2004 or 2005 maybe. And you know what was happening around 2008, 2009 when we first met. You know, the real estate market was kind of tanking, and so my mom found herself a little bit upside down, and you know she was getting her hours cut off at work, so she was working less, making less, and she just wasn't able to afford the house. And a little something that maybe people don't know is that my family, and you know, if you're working for ICE, don't go get them, you know, but my family were like, we were illegal immigrants. Like, we came in legally, but we overstayed our visas because, you know, we didn't know how to immigrate correctly to the States, you know. So I couldn't, like, I was completely illegal. At the time I couldn't even study. Okay. I couldn't get a real job. So like I could have crappy jobs, you know, where like nobody checked papers and where you made like jack squat, you know, and the typical, you know, jobs.
Yeah, kind of
like,
get paid under the table sort of thing,
yeah.
right?
So, you know,
Yeah.
that wasn't helping my mom out.
Yeah, and so, you know, Kramer, he was ready to, because he needed a change. He was just sick and tired, and I know I didn't make those phone calls, but either you made the phone calls, Kramer, or it was one of our associates there. He assisted you in just turning this whole situation around, because we knew a little thing or two about how the mortgage system works and how we could get those payments lowered, how we could forgive some of the back payments, because they were in danger of losing the house. They were in danger because they were behind on payments, and I knew that we knew the techniques. I didn't personally do those techniques on your particular home, or I guess your mom's home, but you lived there, sort of thing. But I know that we were able to turn it around, and we did that, man, in a pretty short period of time.
Oh, it was surprisingly short.
If I remember
think
correctly.
It was within a month. Like, you introduced me to this guy, and I talked to him. I had a meet with my mom, and then like within the month, like it was solved. Like her payment got cut from like $1,200 a month to like $830 a month for the next 5 years, you know, and it was like life changing.
Wow, you know what, just the thought of that, it kind of makes me kind of happy to hear that. I mean, I didn't personally do that, but I know that I assisted. It was very indirect. How I don't want to take credit for that particular process, because I certainly knew how to do it, but for whatever reason, I wasn't the guy that was on the job for that one. But man, it went from there, and then you went from basically going in a place where you weren't sure where you're going to live and driving a mini bike. And then, I don't know, within the year, I think you had a couple vehicles and you were living on your own. Is that right?
Yeah. So
I don't want to put words.
Well, it's kind of funny because like in the States, you can buy a car for like $500, you know, like there are those vehicles, functioning cars, you know, like right here in Peru, like a car that you'd buy in the States for $500 costs like $5,000. You know, they still cost a lot.
Wow.
You know, like I owned 3 Mitsubishi Eclipses between the years 94 and 98. You know, which is like, they're known as the second gen Eclipses. I love them. You know, they're my favorite car. So it wasn't it wasn't that I had those cars because they were cheap. They were the cars that I wanted to get, and they happened to be cheap. So that was like a double whammy for me. But that car here today in Peru is like 10 grand. You can't get any clips here for less than that. It's like, especially
Wow.
because, you know, it's the Fast and Furious car and this and that. It's like in the States, nobody cares because Kelly Blue Book, it says, no, it's old, it's got miles, it's worth this much. You know, so yeah, I mean, I did have about 3 cars and a couple bikes, but again, it's not like, you know, they were $60,000 cars, you know. So, but they were the cars I wanted at the time.
Oh yeah.
So I was happy, and you know, just working out and living on my own. But it was thanks to you that I met like my first multimillionaire mentor, who was Chad Wade. I learned a lot from him, and just the whole dynamic, because you guys were all friends, and the fact that you included me in this circle. That's when I think I first learned about the law of association. You know, because everybody says, tell me the 5 people you hang out with the most, and I'll tell you how you're gonna be. You know, if you hang out with 5 drunks, you're gonna be the 6th one. You know, and I was hanging out with you guys who, for whatever reasons, like to this day, I don't understand why y'all like allowed me to participate. You know, and be, because first of all, y'all are way older than I am. Not way. I mean, you're young and, you know, handsome. But I mean, like, you know, Chad was older, and Adam and Kent, you know, and Christian, you know, the Sharps, you know, much older. I was like 19 at the time. And you let me spend time with you and see how you guys think and what you guys talked about, which, you know, it allowed me at an early age to be surrounded by, not that it's the most important thing in the world, but like certain amounts of money that to me, like, I guess to the average people, you say $1 million and they're like, whoa, $1 million. And you say that to me and I'm like, it's not that much money, you know? I mean, you were making like $40,000-$60,000 a month. So like when someone was telling me, you know, oh, here's a job that you can make $5,000 a month, to someone else that might sound amazing, but I'm like, $5,000, really? You know, I'd rather do whatever it is my friends are doing. You know, and it was a bunch of things, because being an entrepreneur is not necessarily like, it's not a plug and play kind of option, you know, and it's not like, it's not so much do as I do as think as I think, you know. And that's something I learned, especially because like I remember you gifted me a couple books and they had certain markings from stuff that you found that were important, and I was like, oh look, see, this is something that catches Kenny's eye, you know. So what thoughts does that lead you to have, you know? And it's really changed my life, you know, like your guys' influence. I mean, it was thanks to you that I met, like I said, my current mentor, you know, who I've had like this long time relationship with, that now has led me to become a 6-figure earner twice, because I did go into bankruptcy. And I know that you've struggled financially in the past too, you know, and it's hard to go from, especially in my case, go from quote unquote a nobody, and like you said, nobody's a nobody, but you know, like just a guy starting out, nothing to his name, to then making 6 figures and then having nothing. That's the worst, because it's like being worse than before you even started. Okay, Kenny, I spent days, and I was already living here in Peru, so it's not like I had the cushion or the safety net of like living at home with my mom or having my friends that I could depend on, you know. I was by myself, living in a foreign country, totally different culture. It's not first world, you know. I don't want to be knocking the country that I've been living in the past few years, but it's definitely not America, okay? And all of a sudden, like, I was making not even $50 a month. I mean, and food is cheap
Wow.
here, but you still cannot live on $50 a month. I mean, the average income
Well, there's
is
more
like
than food,
$200.
right? You know, there's, wow. Wow. Yeah, it is. It is a difficult thing, but wow, there's so much growth that happens when you lose everything. And how do I know that? Because I've lost everything. I've lost. So there's a lot of growth that happens. And you know, I was just reading some. It was not. I guess it was kind of like a news article, but it was more of like a general interest article of celebrities that are just not leaving anything to their kids, like nothing. Like we're talking about, you know, mega. You know, they have tens of millions, hundreds of millions. One of them even billion. I think it's Bill Gates. He says he's not leaving much to his children, and so it's like, and he almost says like one of the most tragic. One of the most tragic things you can do is just give your child everything, which is hard to do, especially with Kramer. I'm sure you're probably thinking that's got to be hard to do because Kramer just has a new baby at home, and of
Yeah.
course you just want to give your child everything, but when you give them everything, they lose out on the growth. They really lose out on the growth. So
It's true. It's very true. But I remember a lesson I learned from Chad. So Chad was telling me once how he had a couple kids, and they used to help him out to promote his business. Like back in the day, we were doing a lot of guerrilla marketing. You know, that was like leaving presentation cards in books in Barnes and Noble,
yeah.
flyering. You know, and you know, it worked. I mean, it's a numbers game. Like everything in business is a numbers game. The more access you have to a public, the more chances of transforming some of those people into clients and making money. You know, so he had his kids help him out because you know it's for the family. So he's trying to. So he's taking the. So we have a millionaire, okay, that is still doing some stuff himself, and is involving his kids, painting this picture in their head that hey, we're doing this work for the family. So he's creating the sense of responsibility or accountability in his children that hey, we all pull in the same direction, you know, and he has his kids help him pass out flyers, and you know they're happy to do it because they understand that that's where you know all the stuff they have comes from. But his little girl was asking him for some skates, you know, he wanted some rollerblades, and he was like, well, you know, rollerblades come from the money that we get from doing this, you know, so let's pass out the flyers and then we'll see about that. And then just because of what he'd been teaching him, this little girl, so smart, she was like, but daddy, if I had rollerblades, I could hand out these flyers much faster. And I'm like, okay,
Ooh.
if your kid says that, you have got to go and buy him the rollerblades. I mean, like, you know, because it wasn't about like, oh, we don't have the money to do it. No, it was about teaching them the lesson. But like that kid just schooled you know, that means that you're doing something right because their thought process goes that way. You're like, yep. So as far as giving them everything in that sense, absolutely. But I like the idea of having your children work with you for it and not have this attitude of like, oh, we're rich. Like for instance, like I've been living in Peru, like I said, for the last almost 10 years, you know, 7, 8 years. And I've seen some realities that are hard hitting, especially now that the whole thing with Maduro in Venezuela, we had a lot of immigrants from Venezuela come here and like basically like it's an invasion. Like y'all in the States be complaining about immigrants, like y'all don't know. Like I come out of my house, I go to any store and I don't see Peruvians anymore. I see Venezuelans like, you know, at the restaurant serving me, at the store greeting me, like they're everywhere. Like I don't know what happened. Like you know, I don't know where these Peruvians that lost those jobs are. You know, like that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out. But you know, they're everywhere.
Wow.
I see some hard realities. But yeah, it's because they can pay them like half the wage and they'll happily do it. You know, and they're happier people. Like they're naturally better at the service industry, so it's kind of nice to me. It's an upgrade. But you know, like you see some harsh realities. Like you see people on the street begging. You see little kids that instead of being in school are selling like little candies to the cars in traffic. You know, and it's shocking. You know, you're like, and it becomes so black and white. You know, because like I would say I'm in like the top 10, maybe 5% of Peru as far as on any average month. You know, with how much I make, like I'm top 5%. You know, and I mean the 1% obviously makes a ton of money. Okay, because there's rich people in every country. Okay, and I
I
mean
believe that.
rich like ridiculously rich. Okay, but think about this. So like the average person makes $200 a month on an average job. So if I'm making between like $3,000 to $10,000 a month, I mean most of the time I'm making 10 times better. Sometimes like way more than that. You know, and
Well, yeah, even if you only made two, I mean, that's huge.
yeah. So like
Yeah.
you're living side by side. So your reality is one, and you look to your right, like right next to you, you have a guy that has nothing, and you're living in the same country, the same city, the same. You know, it's shocking. So I'm like, okay, so in about 2 years, I'm gonna go back to the States legally this time. to stay, and I'm like, okay, so I want my kids to travel because I want them to see reality. Like, I don't want them to travel and go like, oh, Cancun, and like tourist traps and like, no, no, no. I want them to travel and actually know the world. Okay, so I want them to see like the quote unquote dark side, the necessity that people have, so they can appreciate what I'm going to be, giving them. Okay, because I don't want what people are afraid of. Like, people say that money's evil. I think because people don't understand that money and personal development go hand in hand. So, in which case is money evil? Probably in the case of a rich person who has kids and thinks that money is everything, and so they don't teach the kids values and morals, and so you got a bunch of like, um, bad kids with money, and they grow up to be bad people with money, and they don't appreciate it.
Yeah, they get entitled. They have the sense of entitlement.
Uh-huh.
And it's not all of them, but there's certainly many.
Absolutely. So when Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are like, oh, most of my fortune is going to go to the needy, and then my kids are going to have to build their own empire, I'm like, I'm all down for that. I mean,
certainly. You make a good point. Make a good point about just when you make comparisons, and you should, obviously you got to make comparisons to yourself and to your potential. When you're living side by side with people that have nothing, it gives you more of a sense of gratitude and more of a sense of just appreciation of what you have. There's so much opportunity. There's a lot of phone or on this Zoom platform. They really can't. One, either they can't afford it, or two, they don't have the freedom to do it. The government might block the technology, or there might be listening in, or whatever the case may be. And so there's all these different stripes of freedom out there, whether it's freedom to talk, or freedom to work where you want to work, or just freedom to, in the sense of not being in a jail cell somewhere, freedom. So,
well, I'll give you
man,
an
it's
example
enlightening.
of how different things are outside of the U.S. So personally, I think America is built for the business owner, as far as the tax code and everything. But so I'm originally from Uruguay, and obviously when I left, that's where I went before I decided to come to Peru. And as I was learning about the country I was born in, which, by the way, like, I feel American. I mean, I was raised in the States, so my identity, like, now that people like to identify as things, I identify as a U.S. citizen. I'm American. Okay, I don't like soccer. I love American football. Like, I don't dance with crap, and like, so yeah, like, everybody makes fun of me in South America for being a gringo, even though I'm Latino, even though I'm freaking white. Okay, but when I was in Uruguay, I had a friend who gave me a job as a server. Which, by the way, any of you out there, like, if you're listening to this, if you want to develop your skills, interpersonal skills, a waiter, best thing ever. You will learn to smile at people you hate. You will learn to not let stuff affect you. It's the best job I can recommend. Seriously, like, it was probably my favorite job, and it gives you certain, at least in the States, you have certain liberties where, like, time freedom, because, like, there is always somebody willing to cover your turn, and if you want to pick up more hours, there's always someone that wants to leave. So it's awesome. Okay. But anyway, so my friend has a restaurant, and he gives me a job, and then I started learning about his business. Matter of fact, I almost stayed in Uruguay because we became really close, and he offered me to be a partner in his restaurant, like 40-60, that would have been a good deal. Now they're doing really good, but I decided to come do this instead, which, your choices affect your life, and, like, I don't know how my life would have been then, but then I don't think I would have met my wife, but that's just going on the branches. The point is, he was telling me about the business, and in Uruguay, you can't fire a person. Like, it's the way it's made, because, in South America, they're more socialist, more leaning towards, the populace and protecting the people. And so you can't just fire a person. You can install cameras, okay, and see the guy stealing from your cash register every week, and still you can't fire him because you have to pay I don't know what it's called actually, Kenny. When you fire someone and have to pay them until they get a job or a certain amount of money.
Oh, severance.
Severance.
Severance?
Yes, severance. You got to pay severance. And I'm like, wait, what? He's stealing from you. It's like, it doesn't matter. So you end up having to do stuff like cutting their hours and maybe treating them a little bit bad so that they want to leave. But you're a business owner and you're a slave because of that. So sometimes you don't have all the freedoms that you're used to. So you got to realize how big of a blessing it is to be where you are. There is always someone worse off than you. And when I was broke, because Kenny, literally sometimes I had to go pay phones, which are still a thing here, so you can find them around. I had to go to pay phones to see people left change there so that maybe I could buy a piece of bread. Okay, it was bad, and even then there was people that were worse off than me. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So
No matter what,
learn gratitude.
there's someone that would dream to trade spots with you.
Absolutely.
No
At least I had a room. It was
precisely.
So yeah, you learn a lot of that. It's a big deal, and I'm all for it. Like, I think it's Brian Tracy that says that his kids would say like, "Oh, why we gotta do that? We're rich." It's like, oh, I'm rich. It's like, that's how I'm gonna raise my kid. Okay, my kid Ezio Altair. He's my little prince. Like I didn't think I would be like this. Like, I understand you so much more now that I'm a dad. But like, oh man, like you just give your arm for him and stuff like that. But also, I'm much more interested in him learning valuable lessons and becoming a good man than having everything that he may want. So just because he wants it doesn't mean he has to have it. He's only 5 months old, so like we're not at that stage yet. But no, I'm down to him understanding like what's what.
Absolutely. And so, yeah. So, what do we want to talk about next?
Yeah. So anyway, so mainly, so I'm creating this podcast to talk about business because I have a passion for business, Kenny, and I know you know that. And well, we got kind of started in direct sales. Now we kind of do our own things. Okay, I'm still somewhat involved in network marketing. Like I make a pretty good income off of it, but I like much more the area of consulting. I do some consulting for companies, mainly because the last 7 years or so, I helped launch a couple of companies, so I know how to get a business up and rolling in the country. And I find that to be interesting. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. You get to meet a lot of interesting people. But I also like the side of coaching and like helping people just improve, be better. Which is actually surprisingly, if you look around, it's actually a developing industry. Like it's growing huge. Like the whole like personal development coaching. And
I thought you meant network marketing is growing.
No,
but yeah, personal development coaching is growing.
But no, network marketing is also growing. It's definitely evolving and becoming different, but it's growing. But the only reason behind that is that people are looking for opportunities, and the proliferation of the internet throughout the world has made it so that people can be aware of what's going on somewhere else. So we see how somebody in LA lives, and you're like, well, damn, I want to live like that. And then you're like, oh, well, I can't live like that in my country or with my current situation. So you start Googling, how can I don't know, make $10,000 a month? How can I travel? And there is options left and right. So one of the things that MLM does is it offers most of the time low entry opportunities for people to start creating a side income. Now, it is rare. You got to understand this. It's rare to become a six-figure earner or 7 figures. There are those people, okay? And chances of becoming that are much higher than if you just get a job. But so is if you just, start your own business. Now, the thing is, with MLM, there's already a system. Okay, so that is kind of plug and play. Whereas regular entrepreneurship is more like trial and error. Like most millionaires, I saw an interview where they were interviewing like the top 19 of something, and they're like, okay, how many streams of income do you have? And they had the one that had the least had 3 different streams of income. On average, they had 7, and some had like 12 different streams of income. You know, that's 12 activities that are making you money that maybe you're not even doing anything actively in. So, because what you want to have is passive income, you know, and then they're like, okay, how many businesses did you have before you hit it big with this one? And on average, it was like 7 to 15 businesses. One of them, like, it was his 19th try where he made it big. So, you know, it's not for everyone, okay? And I understand that sometimes you're in situations where you probably can't. Like, I know that now that I have a kid, I'm married and have a kid, I can't take the same, let's say, risks that I could as a single person, you know? So it's taking some time to adjust to that, because I'm used to living by the bootstraps, just doing things. I tend to wing things, you know, but the last couple of years
Yeah.
I've been planning. We talked in your blog about how, like, I made a plan, you know, for the next 3 years or so, and, you know, following it, executing certain phases, you know, so I'm much more organized in that sense. But being an entrepreneur is hard. So there are options now that allow you to make money online that are not necessarily network marketing. You know, there's affiliate programs, there's e-commerce, there's drop shipping, there's a bunch of stuff, you know. But the thing is, it tends to start part-time. So you got to put food in your mouth, okay, somehow. And then your free time, instead of watching 4 hours of TV, you dedicate 4 hours to creating that web page and whatever, you know. So it takes some discipline. It takes some giving up. You got to give up certain things, but you're giving up something decent, okay, for something better. I mean, that's what sacrifice is, you know, choosing the bigger.
Yeah. It goes by, I can't remember the exact quote. Maybe you know it. Jim Rohn's, I think I work full-time on my job and part-time on my fortune. Is that how it works?
That's exactly how it is.
Yeah. And I'll throw this in, is that when you're working on your fortune, it's not all going to be, I mean, you won't get far unless it's fun, but every second of it doesn't have to be fun. There's going to be parts that suck, right? And so, but there's got to be some passion behind it. So if you're choosing a vehicle because it makes you money, that's the wrong way. You should be choosing a vehicle that you're passionate about, because you're more likely to be working harder on it. And when you work harder on it, that's when you get those results. And so if you feel like you're slaving away, be flexible with the vehicle, with what you use. Maybe it's not network marketing, or maybe it's a different network marketing company, or maybe you got to go online, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you have enough money to start a franchise, whatever the case may be, or you want to write a book, whatever it is. Be flexible with the way you get there, but make sure the goal is non-negotiable. Just the journey isn't.
Exactly.
And because if you find, you know, I know that the first network that you've been in several network marketing companies, right? So that means they weren't all a good fit. Otherwise, if it was the first one, you'd still be in it, but they're not all a good fit. So it's okay to change your mind along the way, especially if changing your mind gets you there faster.
Absolutely.
And the important part, yes, the important part is that if it's not fun, you will not do it. That is why we got guys like LeBron James, who loves basketball. There's no doubt in my mind that guy holds a basketball every day. There's no doubt, right? Because he loves basketball, right? And that's how he became good at it. He became good at it because he loves it. That's how I got good at Super Mario Brothers. I love the game, so I got really good at it, right? I'm not making money at it, but it's not a matter of, if I didn't like it, I probably wouldn't play. I wouldn't be any good at it.
Absolutely.
And so whatever the vehicle is, make sure you like it. You're not going to like every single moment, but you got to like it most of the time, so that you can't wait. When you get home from that job and you're tired and you're hungry and you'd rather watch TV, and you're like, no. I would rather work on my future, because that's fun. It's easy to get passionate about the goal, but you got to get passionate about the process as well. It's very important. Otherwise, you will let 20 years go by trying to get to your goal, and you'll never get there because you just have the wrong vehicle.
Exactly. And that's something that I've learned in my own life too, because like right now, and I've been talking to you about this actually for a couple of years now, okay, I was kind of burned out on the whole MLM thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
six-figure earner. Yeah, I've been in a couple companies. Some were awesome, some were not so awesome. Some, I would still be in, but like the thing with MLM that I personally don't like is that so much of it depends on someone else. Because like the first time I became a six-figure earner, the company ended up going out of business because of bad management of the corporate staff and CEOs and stuff like that. I'm like, what? That was off. Like that was traumatizing to me. Okay,
I
and
bet you it was. You finally think you make it. You finally think I've done something right, and then all of a sudden, the universe takes you by the hand and says, "No, you thought you were right, but you're not."
but you're not. And see, here's the thing. So most people like are not even ready for stuff when they get it. Like you want stuff, and then turns out you're not ready to have it. So like I've been wanting to get married for a few years, and well, obviously I wasn't ready because hey, it didn't happen. But then last year I got married to this wonderful girl that's just like the best thing that ever happened to my life, and she's like entrepreneurial minded, and she, very passionate, like, you know, and it's the best thing ever. And we had a kid right away, and it's like everything I ever wanted. But it's because I'm finally like mature enough and financially mature enough, not in how much money I have, but how I manage my money. So like when I first became, when I first hit six figures, I was living like most of the MLM people live, paycheck to paycheck. Technically, you're broke at a higher level. Okay,
Hmm.
so when that company went out of business and I started making zero a month, that was awful because I had zero money saved up. How can you be making over $8,000 a month and then all of a sudden have no money? I Right now I can't understand how that happens, but it happened. That's what my reality was because I had zero financial training. Okay, I didn't know how to manage money or handle it or invest it or whatever. I wasn't ready for it. I got super cocky actually. Like I would talk to people, dude, Kenny, I'm so ashamed. Like I would talk to someone who was like a doctor, and I'd be like, yeah, how much money you make? Yeah. Oh well, what's up? I'm 24. Okay, I have no schooling whatsoever. I'm not even from here. I'm an immigrant, and because obviously I'm not Peruvian, and I make 5 times what you make, 10 times, 3 times, and I work half the time or not even. And looking back, I'm like, ew, like that's a disgusting human being right there. But that's because like that was so much money that I went from making like $600 a month to like over $8,000 a month in less than like 4 months, just because like all the hard work I had put in for a couple like 2-3 years all of a sudden paid off just like that. And I was so busy working that I didn't take the time to build up my personal development. So it's super key to grow to the level that you're trying to hit. So you may have huge goals, but you gotta become the person that can achieve those goals. Okay. So sometimes the universe will give you stuff because it's tired of you. It's like, oh my god, this guy again. So there you go, and then you find out you weren't ready for it. Okay, but this time around, I've managed to do more with way less. I've managed to keep more. I managed to advance in life, like getting married, buying my wife a car, just like a bunch of cool stuff. I've traveled, traveling is amazing. Kenny, I've never met anyone that has actually traveled that doesn't like traveling. Other people say like, oh, I don't like to travel. It's like, where have you gone? Nowhere. So people that don't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
traveling have not traveled. Okay. But
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
the point there is that you have got to have a goal, but be flexible as to how you get there and prepare yourself for it. See, Jim Rohn says that if somebody wins the lottery, he hopes they become a millionaire soon or they're going to lose it all. And people are like, oh, I thought if you have $1 million, you're a millionaire. No, because it's a mindset. Just, I don't care what y'all think about Donald Trump, but, Donald Trump, if he loses all his money right now, how long do you think it will be before he's got all that money again? Or Warren Buffett, or Bill Gates, or Mark Zuckerberg? Take your pick. Okay, how long?
Less than a year. Less than a year
Absolutely.
before.
They've
Yeah,
got
for
the
Trump, because I think
contacts.
Trump did it. He got bankrupt. Trump did it in less than 2 years. He was a billionaire again within 2 years, if I remember correctly.
Because think about it.
Right? And this has nothing to do with his politics. This is just about his past. That's all it has to do with. He has a financial stewardess that is far higher than many others.
It's like if you have never exercised before and go to the gym, and you have exercised before and just took a hiatus or something and get back, how much faster do you gain back what you had versus the guy that's trying to build it? Obviously it's easier to get stuff back, okay, because you've already tasted it. So you always talked about vibrations and stuff like that, and I actually live my life based off of this. How do I choose what I'm gonna do? Because of the vibrations I feel from it. How it sounds corny, I know. When you don't experience it, you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I look at actions, I visualize, I'm like, this is how it would feel to have X thing that I want to have, or be X thing that I want to be. And I choose what I do based on if it feels vibrationally more like that or less like that. And I move towards that, and it's been really helpful to me because it helps me to get there without necessarily knowing or having like the most perfect plan. I just go off of, can I see this helping me get there? And once you've had it, once you've experienced it, you are more in tune with that vibration. You know what it tastes like. So, I mean, if I tell you like this soup, you've never had this soup, I'm like, is this soup any good? Does it taste what it's supposed to taste like? You don't know. Okay, but if you've had that soup before, or you've had the best version of that soup, you're like, oh, okay, so you can do this and that to fix it, or you can judge better. See, people think that the Bible says like don't judge or whatever, but it says don't judge incorrectly, because you're supposed to judge and make judgment calls and choose what is best. Like if you don't know what's good or bad, how can you choose? So you have got to be able to make these judgment calls. And so when you're trying to get something, it helps if you can be surrounded by people that already have it. Like when you're looking for a mentor, you gotta look at the fruit on the tree. Like you gotta, if you would switch places with that person in that instance, then great. Then that's someone you want to follow and ask for advice, because it's a lot easier when you got someone that can help you. Again, I may not have tried that soup, but you have. So I have you next to me as I'm preparing it. I'm like, Kenny, is this any good? And then you can guide me. Okay, so it took me a lot less time to reach six figures again than it took me the first time. And it took Donald Trump, 2 years to become again. Because of why? Because he already knows what to do. If you give $1 million to the average person, what are they going to do? How fast is that million going to disappear? You buy a house for yourself. You buy a house for mom. You buy the car you wanted. You maybe buy another car. You buy clothes. Million is gone. But you give someone with some experience $1 million, and what do? They invest it. They will
double it, triple it. They'll have 10 million in the next couple years.
I mean, heck, Kenny, you could put $1 million in the bank and live off of the interest. You could make $3,000 a month just on the interest. I mean, here in South America, you live pretty darn good with $3,000. I mean, that's a decent, like way decent. I know in the States, but you wouldn't really need a job now, would you? If you had $3,000 passively, I mean, you don't need a job, but obviously you may want to have a better life, but it gives you the freedom to go out there and do more things with the time freedom that you don't have to spend 8 to 10 hours a day somewhere doing something you don't like. Because it's key what you said. You got to have a passion for it. You got to like what you do. So how much do you enjoy what you do right now, Kenny?
I love what I do right now.
And right? I can tell because you're always happy about it. Whenever you tell me about it, you're just like excited all the time. I love it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is that you make so many good points, and so many times I let you speak, but so many times I just kind of want to just kind of reach in there. But you mentioned the lottery winners, right? Just like Donald Trump made the money back in 2 years, the lottery winner would lose all the money in 2 years.
Absolutely.
Not because they're stupid, right? It's not about being stupid. It's just about they just don't have the financial stewardship to keep the money and to grow the money. It's just a process, and some people can go through that process quickly. Some people can go through it slowly. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. What matters is that you go through it so that when the opportunity arises, you can get there, right? And so opportunities are always in front of us. it's a tragedy when there's an opportunity and you're just not prepared to take advantage of it. And so become that person. And if you don't know where to start, I would say, what would you say? Like, what's the first book they should read? I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, it depends, because obviously people are at different levels. Like, the first book I started with is not even the first book that I would recommend. But, like, the first book I read seriously was one that I heard Chad say on a call that I didn't know who this guy was. He just spoke with this passion and energy. It was a phone call, okay? And he's a millionaire, and he's like, look, read this book. And I'm like, okay, if a millionaire is going to tell me to read a book, I'm going to read it. And he said, what's the name of the book? Babylon.
Richest Man in Babylon?
The Richest Man in Babylon. Yep. Okay? And I'm like, and to me, it opened up my mind to thinking that, oh my gosh, you can have more, because basically that's what the book teaches you, and and how to do it. But that's not even the book I would recommend to people. I think a really simple place to start is, sadly, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, it's like, yeah, that's the one that most people know, but it's a good, like, lay of the land kind of thing.
That is the book that really changed things for me. Like, have you read The Alchemist or no?
No, never read that one. It's not even.
You know of it or no? You know of it?
I think you talked to me about it once.
You got to grab a copy. You just got to grab it somewhere and just start. You'll read that book in like probably 2 days, but less than a week for sure. You'll be fine. That one teaches you more about belief, and it's less about finances. Rich Dad Poor Dad, that is more about mindset, finances, picking up assets, and learning the difference between assets and liability. Awesome book. Yeah, and so Alchemist is more of a mindset, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad is more of an it's not an action book. That's more of a content book, because it doesn't tell you how to take action. You just want to take action afterwards.
No, that's
good. So either one of those books, I would just start with both of those. Those are good.
In my formative years, I really enjoyed Harmonic Wealth. James Arthur.
That's a good book. That's a heavy read, but it's a good book. It's heavy,
but it's heavy.
And there's an audio book. Yeah, it is a heavy one. It's a heavy one, and of course, Think and Grow Rich. I think for me, that's a heavy book. Yeah, that is a heavy book, even though it's small.
Think and Grow Rich. If you're not ready for what's in there, you're gonna be like, "What? What is this?" So you gotta, like, prepare yourself to read that book. You gotta just come open.
Yeah, that's one of those books that, like, you could read one chapter and read it over and over for a month, and then go to the next chapter and read that over and over for a month, and just get through that book and become a different person afterwards.
Speaking of reading one chapter over and over, you're the one that got me into The Greatest Salesman in the World.
And you know who? And Chad got me into that. So awesome. Just imagine that.
And so get this.
Yeah.
So it was through you that I met the guy that has all the rights to Augmentino stuff.
Yep.
So
yeah, I still have a video of you high-fiving my son in his basement, right? And that little roller coaster thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that night? Yeah. That was in Bountiful, Utah.
And I never thought that I would meet a person like that, dude. And he, who totally had gone bankrupt and then built himself back up again. So that was some crazy story right there.
All the good stories come from someone that's lost everything and then got it back. Because once you lose everything, once you get it back, you're almost indestructible then. Because even if you lose it all, you're just going to get it back again.
I'm grateful for what I went through. I don't want to go through it again, ever. But I'm grateful that I did.
Yes.
So it's like that. But yeah, so the main point is we just want to talk about business, how you can get started, what tips we have, because obviously, like, we have vastly different lives. Not everybody's situation is the same. I mean, people are more or less the same, but if you think about it, we're all the results of every decision we've taken up to this point. So yes. Basically, if your life is good right now, it's because of you. So it's quote unquote your fault. And if your life is crappy right now, it's your fault. I mean, I used to think that stuff, like, think about it. I was in the States, illegal. I couldn't study. I couldn't get a job. I was blaming everything. I mean, think about it. Did I not have the world against me? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could totally see someone taking that
So
stance.
absolutely, but that's a victim mentality because you can rise above
Absolutely.
that. I mean, that's just wind. Jim Rohn says it. It's wind. The same wind blows on us all. Like recession, the politics. You can't blame the Democrats or the Republicans. Like you're like something that I
Or the
remember
president,
is having
you
or the
know?
president.
Yeah.
You always said something about having your own economy. Whereas the economy doesn't matter because you have your own economy, your own little, you know, and that always stuck with me. You know, and Jim Rohn says the same wind blows on us all. What matters is the set of the sail. And I've always liked
Woo.
sailboats and captains. So when he said that, I was like, oh damn, I'm the captain of my ship. I've been here complaining
That's
about
awesome.
where we're going, and I'm the one that's supposed to give the orders of where we're gonna go. And once that becomes clear, you're like, oh my gosh, I have the power to change everything.
Things change. Yeah. So here's what we need to do, Kramer, is because we have so much more to talk about, but we need to start wrapping this up because I got to get
Yes,
going.
me too,
And
actually.
then we got to think about the maybe, you know what, as far as our next topics, I don't like how to's because those are never evergreen because the
No.
how to's may not be relevant a year from now or 5 years from now. But the basics, you know, talking about vibration and belief and faith and all that stuff, that's what we should be talking about. And so, how do we want to wrap this call up?
Well, just thank you, Kenny, for being here. Our next one, we'll discuss privately, obviously, what the theme is going to be, and we'll work a couple more ahead so that we know what the next few are going to be. That way, we can announce them in the videos.
Sure.
But I just really hope that this helps people. I mean, it's just two dudes talking, really. I mean, we're not. I mean, neither Kenny or I are millionaires, you know. So it's not like we're some
No,
gurus or something. You know, we're just some people that have done okay for ourselves. Uh, you know, who I think we know a couple things or two that may help you. And once you reach a certain level, like we can definitely get you in touch with someone that can help you go beyond. You know, because we know this.
wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in the free world, we could probably get you in touch with someone. I'm sure.
Uh huh. Oh yeah, and that's the
But
thing.
yeah,
All
so,
over the world, like we know people everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
like in the free world. Like if you're like, you know, if,
Yeah. I don't know anybody in
I
the
don't want to
free
mention
or you know. Yeah.
exactly. I wasn't going to say that country, but yeah. But here's the thing: is that if you're listening to this, if you like the content, then be aware. Look out for the announcements for the next conversations we have because I'm going to share something. Me and Kramer, we're going to share some, some nuggets that we hope that you can use and bring forward so that you can improve on your lives.
Yeah, and,
And
and
and,
we're more
and
concerned
more
about
importantly, for you
content.
guys to pass it on as well.
Yeah, we're more interested about content and not production value. Like this is something I got from Eric Worre. Like when he started doing his videos on YouTube, he was like, "Yo, this is not a professional production." Like, and I know that the more professional it looks, I'm not out for numbers. Okay, I know that if I was trying to become a YouTuber or something like that, I would have to have like these perfectly cut videos and transitions. It's like I don't care. I'm just
Yeah. We also have to become a lot more attractive when we become YouTubers. So
yeah,
not
we
that we're
have to be
ugly.
better looking, you know. But no, like we just mainly want to get the content out. We want to have an honest conversation, be real, like it's the real us, okay, and just provide value for you. And if you think that there's value, you know, give it a like, share it, you know, all the fancy stuff everybody says. That way, more people can find out about us. Uh, but yeah, we're just gonna keep doing this, and hopefully, we're gonna get better. But like Kenny said, you know, it's about the content. We're gonna prepare a little bit better, but mainly we just wanted to get this one out of the way because the hardest step is to just start, just to do it because we've been talking about this for months, and
Months and months.
somehow
Yeah.
it just something always gets in the way, and it was like, no, dude, let's just do it. So it's done.
Let's just do it.
Okay,
Awesome. Well,
thank
it
you.
was a great call. And
Do it again next week.
whoever's listening out there, look out for the next one. Yeah, we're going to chat next week. We might even do one sooner, maybe a half a week, depending on your schedule. We'll see how it
Sweet,
works out. Okay.
love it. I'll see you, my friend.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, man. Peace. How do I leave?
Bye. How do I, exactly? How do I?